definitely, we have to understand, brothers and sisters, the Muslim community is diverse. With that diversity, educating them about what new Muslims go through, depending on your locality, in America, educating them about what new Muslims go through, what someone that has a question about Islam may go through. Because they may be affected by your message. We see this clearly many times throughout the seerah. Many times throughout the seerah. Throughout the life of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. When there was a time he made the pact of Hudaybiyah, which is, I advise all of you to read on this pact of Hudaybiyah, is so relevant to our times. When the Prophet made a pact with the Meccans at that time, one of the delegates that was from a tribe called Thaqif, it was in Ta'if, a little above Mecca. They were rough people. One of the delegates, his name was Urwa. He came to make a deal with the Prophet, try to negotiate. Okay, we're not going to let y'all come in and practice your ceremonial practice of Umrah, but let's make a deal. Let's make some clauses. He saw that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, didn't want to come for war because there was beef. There was problems between the Mushrikun of Mecca and the Muslims of Medina at that time. But the Prophet was coming to Medina because he wanted to practice Umrah. So he was wearing his ceremonial clothes. And he came with animals to slaughter, roughly about 80 of them. And these animals are only used for slaughtering. They even dress them up in ornaments and make them look nice. Right? So so where people know you cannot even ride this animal. This animal is only for slaughter. So when they had this animal, Urwa, the polytheist that represented the Meccans, at that time he saw this and he was touched. But still, Urwa was using psychological warfare against the Prophet. Now listen closely to the things that he was saying. He was saying, you've left your people. Because with the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, are people that embrace Islam. All behind him are converts. Young. Right? Most of them from Medina. So Urwa didn't know who these people were. He didn't know all these young individuals behind him. Some of them he knew, but some of them he didn't. Most of them he didn't. So Urwa was like, you've left your people for these people? For these degenerates? Look at them. You've left your tribe and your people for them? Wallahi, these people are going to leave you. You're cutting off relations with people that will have your back, for people that will leave you in a split second. And then Abu Bakr made this is when Abu Bakr, the Prophet's best friend, made a statement that I can't even say here. He said something to him out of anger. He said something, he was very angry. But Urwa, upon that, he used a psychological warfare to show, look, they're not going to help you. You're leaving your people. Really, you think this is the right thing to do? Are you sure you want to do this? He was even grabbing his beard and saying, come on. Because you know Arabs, they do this. If they want to say something, they say, yeah. This is what they do. They'll grab your beard like this. Right? So, this is what he was doing. And his nephew, Mulayda bin Shurba, had his sword, and he hit his sword 3 times. He said, the 3rd time you put it up, I'm going to cut it off. So what happened was with Urwa, when he saw this, he saw the way they were acting with the Prophet, he went back and he made the famous statement that many of us heard. Because he was an emissary. He was like an ambassador. So he's been to Rome, he's visited the Byzantines, he's been to, Persia. He's spoken to the elite. He's an ambassador. So he comes back to Abu Sufyan, who was the general that time in Mecca, and he said, I visited Kisra. And I visited the Byzantine. I've been to these places. I've never seen people show respect as they have shown respect for Muhammad. He said, I've never seen anything like that. Urwa later becomes Muslim. He embraces Islam. He goes to the Prophet Muhammad and he's so happy. He's so happy. He's like, I'm going to go back to my people and tell them about Islam. But the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he knew the tribe of Thaqif. He knew that they were rough. This is where Abu Dhar al-Ghifari was from. Abu Dhar, the same one that cursed Bilal and told Bilal, you're the son of a black woman. This is what Abu Dhar said. He said, you're the son of a black woman. Bilal went and told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet got angry and reprimanded Bilal, or reprimanded Abu Dhar. Abu Dhar put his face on the ground and told him to step on his neck. This is a sign in their times to show that I've disrespected you. I'm sorry. I apologize. So Bilal told him, get up. They got up and he hugged him. This is Abu Dhar. He's from this tribe of Thaqif. So Urwa, being from this tribe of Thaqif, comes back and says this about the Prophet Muhammad. Then he embraces Islam later. So he tells the Prophet, I'm going to go back to my people. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, I'm going to go back to my people and call them to Islam. Right? The Prophet said, are you sure? Are you sure that you want to do this? He says, if I go to sleep, they won't even wake me up. This shows, he's trying to show, this is how much power and authority I have over the people. How much respect I have. If I'm asleep, they won't wake me up. He goes back to his tribe in Thaqif, calling the adhan. He's praying. Somebody shoots a bow and arrow at him, shoots an arrow at him. He dies and falls because it's a mountainous area. He falls deep into the valley. This is early. So in seeing that, brothers and sisters, people will be affected by the way that you act. They will be affected, and they are watching you. They are watching you. Non-Muslim relatives are watching you. I'm telling you, they're watching you. When the convert comes back home and they've told their family about Islam, their non-Muslim relatives they're seeing the development in their child, or their younger brother or sister. And they're going to blame it on the Muslims. If it's good, they may not say anything. If it's bad, oh yes. Right? Field day. They're watching you. So if there's programs for them to educate themselves, if there's social structures for them to get educated and to have a brotherhood and sisterhood, they will see how that person will develop through this process that the community has created for him or her. Social events, Jum'ah khutbah, etc. So you as a coach, making sure that at your local masjid, that the khutbahs that are given are khutbahs that are welcoming. Khutbahs that have universal messages. Right? Khutbahs that if you're going to explain something that may be controversial, that the person is well educated enough and eloquent enough, that they use the right words because a khutbah is a 30-minute opportunity, really 20-minute opportunity to speak to the majority of the community that doesn't even pray at that masjid, not even realizing that girl that goes to UT or boy that goes to UT has brought their non-Muslim friend to see the Muslims. And you have no idea. And this non-Muslim is so nervous sitting in front of hundreds of people. Then they hear Allah Akbar. They don't know what's going to happen. No idea. Allah Akbar. They have no idea what's going to happen. The only time they heard that was on television. Okay? So we have to be very sensitive to that reality. When there's people that get up on the minbar and they're talking about Islam or talking about non-Muslims, not to say that we lessen the fabric of our identity as Muslims, no. But when they speak, they give a message that is conducive to that demographic. Also, the social events, do we have open houses? Do we have potlucks for them on a monthly or weekly basis? Events to where they can talk. No education, just to sit and talk. So where it's education indirectly, but it's something that they feel that they can come and they're not going to be looked at, they're not going to be shunned, etc. The same situation with the youth. Same exact thing. Same exact situation. Also, understanding about Urwa bin Mas'ud, I told y'all about that a little earlier. But realizing that when we deal with new Muslims, for instance, one thing that we had in New Year a while ago was actually a project that we haven't launched formally. It's called a fishing pole. And this project is basically of two elements. It's a scholarship fund to where individuals in the community can say, okay, let's say it's 10, 4 brothers, 4 sisters. 4 brothers say, okay, I will pitch in this month $2,000. Everyone pitches in $2,000. It's $8,000. That's a scholarship for a new Muslim to go to community college for their first semester. If a non-Muslim parent that wants their child to have a better life sees that the Muslim community had a scholarship for them to go to college, what kind of effect is that going to leave on the non-Muslim effect? What kind of effect? Rather, the new Muslim goes to work and they're, mashallah, mutawakkil zahid. Allah is going to provide. Right? They say, no, I don't need to work. You don't need to work. Why do I need to work? I'm a Muslim now. Allah, there's a word called razaq. That means Allah provides. No? So, as long as I'm good to you, Allah is going to provide. So I can stay at home, no problem. No. He sees the community is productive. The community is productive. As the Prophet said, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِلنَّاسِ. The best of people are the ones that are beneficial to others. So when the non-Muslim relative sees that this Muslim brother or sister that is new Muslim changed their life, being very weird in their household as far as they're concerned, is trying to be a better person, trying to get a career, thinking about how they're going to live their life, wanting to get married, right? This affects the non-Muslim community. So we'll take a break there, inshallah, and we'll take a break for about 5 minutes, inshallah, and we'll come right back. So we ended up speaking about roughly the purpose of why we're here, which we actually call why are you here, being the first things first, for you to understand that this effort of trying to help new Muslims or educate the Muslim community or non-Muslim community about the new Muslim experience is something that is very, very important. And for you to understand what is the vision of this organization being New You, and what is the mission statement and the vision, being that what are the things that we do from, as we mentioned, the element of the process of progression, that it is a process, and that dealing with converts is not something that is just a one-time event. It can start with a one-time event, but we should look at events as a catalyst for something that will allow them to continue and further progress and develop in their religion. And I want to mention a side point is that the goal of any new Muslim organization is for the new Muslim to graduate from being called a new Muslim. You shouldn't want them to be called a new Muslim 10 years down the line, right? To where there's one time I met a brother and he was telling me how he met a brother, and they were talking, and the Muslims, how long have you been Muslim? 4 years. And they started talking, and he said, he mentioned the word Fatiha. So the brother was like, what's that? You know what Fatiha is? What's a Fatiha? He said, I just been Muslim 4 years, he doesn't even know what Fatiha is. The first time he's heard the word. So this is something that is important to where an event that takes place can further lead to a process. We're making sure that every new Muslim, someone that comes into Islam, is not just an event-based Muslim, right? There's someone that goes through the process of learning, having social circles, to where they will eventually just be a Muslim, even though they were Muslim before. They're not someone that's termed as a new Muslim, meaning that they're in the beginning stages of learning and practicing Islam. And that's the definition of a new Muslim. Someone that's in their beginning stages of learning and practicing Islam. I'm going to repeat it one more time. Someone that is in their beginning stages of learning and practicing Islam. Now I'm going to tell you why I repeated that. Many times I've given these classes for new Muslims, right? And automatically, someone that's been Muslim for a while will say, oh no, I'm not a Muslim, so it doesn't apply to me. So there's times that they want to come up and see what I'm teaching. They want to see the class. Wallahi, they come up and say, wallahi, I didn't know that. I didn't know that about Hajj. I didn't know that about the 5 years. I had no idea. I'm learning myself. And these are people that were born Muslim. They've been in the masjid. So sometimes seasoned Muslims may be new Muslims from some aspects. Learning and practicing the basics of their religion. That is what a new Muslim is. And that's why we said a renewed Muslim is someone that can have a new Muslim experience also. The youth have new Muslim experiences. The question I posed to a number of the parents last night is, we have to realize and ask ourselves, when our children reach 15, 16, maybe even 8, 9, have our children embraced Islam? Even though they were born Muslim, but do they recognize and acknowledge that they're Muslim? They'll say, I'm Muslim like myself. I said I was Christian, but as soon as I started to look into Christianity, that's when I became Muslim. As soon as I voluntarily studied, okay, what does Christianity really revolve around? What are the pillars of Christianity that without that, there's no Christianity? That's what I wanted to know. So when I found out what Islam is, what are the pillars of it that without that structure, there's no Islam? And I said, okay, this is what I've already believed in. So that's very, very important to understand the process of progression. What we're going to talk about now, inshallah, is the coach versus the mentor. Many of us say coach or mentor, but there are slight differences after slight study that there is a difference between a coach and a mentor. When we say a coach, it is someone we think of like what? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when we think coach? Sports. On the sister side. Sports also? Okay. So you think sports. So the coach is the one that is there on a daily basis. Or if some of our kids are in soccer or basketball, volleyball, what have you, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, on Saturdays there's a game. Sometimes the coach will tell you about your child, things that you didn't know, because we have to realize, especially as community members, is that sports is one of the best ways for tarbiyah. You should not look at the basketball court, the volleyball court, any type of physical interaction between people that requires stressful interaction. This is one of the best ways to raise somebody of tarbiyah. Why? Because when that child loses, they're going to be upset. They're going to be mad. If there's someone that's not that good on the team, how do they treat that person? You as an elder, someone that's been through that, you see that, you'll know how to dictate that. But if you're not there with them on a daily basis, you won't have that experience to be able to raise them. That's why being a coach is such a it's a commendable position. Wallahi, it's a commendable position. It's such a commendable position. That we as fathers and uncles, when the kids are playing after Tarawih, right? Or they're playing after Isha, wallahi, take a chair, because many of us may have the shay or the chai, right? Outside. Take the chair instead of sitting outside talking about somebody or something or some political issue, and take the chair and sit in the gym. Just look at it. See how your children act. No, I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm saying see how they interact. And then you'll see, subhanAllah, somebody may need to be here to take advantage of an opportunity to tell them about some gems of life. That's why a coach is so important, because he or she is there throughout the process. They're there to see them develop. They're a trainer. Someone that helps someone reach a desired result through improved behavior and performance via guidance, encouragement, and support. That's what a coach is defined as. But a mentor is someone that has knowledge and experience and imparts that to someone. So a mentor doesn't necessitate that they're there with them on a daily basis. If you have your college professor or a high school teacher that you love, right? In the beginning, that teacher was your coach because you saw them every day. High school. They were there when you were going through problems. When you got in your first fight, your first argument. They called you after class and they said, "Is everything all right?" And you say no. But then they see you the next day. I saw what happened 2 days ago. When you're caught red-handed. But then they're still there to interact with you. They're the ones talking to your parents. Parents, you never knew that your child did this in school. You never knew your child was brilliant. Good or bad, the teacher serves as a coach. But when that student graduates and you contact that teacher years later, or that friend years later, the one that was older than you and taught you something, they become a mentor now because they're not always around you. And they give you words of wisdom. See, that's why we use the word convert coaches. Because many times we're dealing with converts. Sometimes being a mentor may help, but definitely being a coach is essential for their development. So when looking at the difference between a mentor and a coach, the first one is that it's periodic interaction with the coach. You're constantly with them. So for an example, you say to that convert, they embrace Islam, they come to the masjid, or they don't come to the masjid. Jum'ah, you tell them, look, every second Jum'ah, let's go out after Jum'ah. Let's go out after Jum'ah. Let's meet at this masjid. Let's just go out and have some lunch. Or we can meet at 6 o'clock after Jum'ah. After you get off work, we meet at 6 o'clock. Something that you can handle, but is consistent. Even if it's once a month. You'll be surprised. You'll think once a month is not enough, but they'll tell you, which happens, I'll even say all the time. They'll say, you know what, I really need this. I really need just to sit and talk to someone. I really need just for someone just to sit and listen to me. No? Just for someone to sit and listen to me. And when I talked about this Facebook killer, what happened in Cleveland, right? Did any of y'all see the video? What was he saying? What were some of the things that he said to his friends? You remember? Does anyone remember seeing some of the things he said to his friend? He said no one picked up? He said, I remember him saying, he said that he mentioned that no one picked up when he was calling. I remember him saying when he called his friends, he was like, man, every time I reach out to y'all just blow me off. make fun of me. Right? And then when he hung up the phone, he said, man, I'm like a lion. They just like, I always sound like a monster. He said, I'm a monster, man. People just make fun of me. They don't take me seriously. And then he was looking at, because it was Facebook Live. He saw some of the messages. He said, are you serious? He said, see, that's what I'm talking about. Am I serious? People don't take me seriously. They take me as a joke. He blamed his girlfriend, and he blamed his mom. He said his girlfriend's name, and he was like, yeah, my mom. Yeah, my mom too, man. My mom too. When I reached out to her, she just blew me off. And then that's when he said, that's why I'm going to go. And he started using words and saying what he was going to do. The bad part about it is that he looked so cool, calm, and collect that he was about to go do what he said he was going to do. The words he used, I'm going to say it. Just calm. He even he said, this is my work badge for y'all to know. This is who I am. But your face is on the Facebook video. They didn't see your work badge. So it was like, okay, is there something mental going on? At the end of the day, he reached out to people and had a negative response. Okay? So that periodic interaction, eventually when you deal with that convert, they're going to be, in the beginning, they may not reach out, they may not talk to you, right? But just be casual. Don't ask them a whole bunch of questions about their life in the first sitting. Just be casual. Be very easy and casual. Go out and just talk to them. Now, a mentor is someone that's accessible. They can call when they need you. And it's not to say that this is not effective, but being a coach is the most effective. You may not have that much time, right? But at least for them to know that there's someone that they can call and ask questions, there's someone that they can call and count on is what's most important. The coach need not have done the job. What do I mean by the job here? What is synonymous to the job? When I say the job here, what does that mean? In this context.
You don't have to have played basketball to coach basketball.
No, the context of a new Muslim.
Coach somebody.
No. I'll give you a hint. This applies to probably most of you here.
You don't have to go through their experiences to know what they're going
through. Right. You don't have to be someone that's embraced Islam. Right? Because sometimes you may think, well, I haven't embraced Islam. I can't deal with that. Well, let me go to over there. It's somewhere. No? That doesn't have to be the case. But a mentor generally is someone that has been there and done that. Right? Because he may come with a real question that may deal with something in his culture or in his way of life that someone that has been there and done that can answer accordingly. Right? There's many times, for instance, one brother came and asked me, he said, there was a sister that my father is forcing me to marry. I don't want to marry her. My older brother married her sister, and the younger sister, I talked to her for a period of 4 years, I really, really sincerely don't think it's going to work out. But my father, he's learned Deen, he's learned Islam, he said that I have to. Right? What do I do? I said, look, Islamically, you don't have to, but just know that most likely if you tell him no, be ready to be alone. You may get kicked out of your apartment because you live with his brother. Your brother may side with your father. Be ready to be a man now. Right? But don't take my word for it because he's from a different culture. I said, go and ask Sheikh so-and-so because he understands the nuances of your culture, what may be more beneficial for you to be patient in certain situations, how to deal with him. He may talk to him. So with that, this individual that I refer to is probably more of a mentor because he's been through that, something that I haven't had that much experience in. Also, heavy on the process. The coach is heavy on the process. He's most concerned with the development. He's most concerned with seeing him a week later, a month later, seeing how they're doing, calling them up, right? If you're someone that knows a convert and you're not able to meet with them, put on the notifications on your phone. Call Muhammad, new Muslim, and put in the parentheses, convert. Have it in your phone. On Jummah. Usually on Jummah, after Jummah is when we spend time with family, we're really not doing anything, right? So you just sit, okay, at 5 p.m. or right before Maghrib, on my way to the masjid, something to where you say, okay, call Muhammad. Wallahi, the fact that they see your number, even if you don't talk to them, and even if they don't want to talk to you, they're at the end of the day going to say years down the line, and Muhammad never left me hanging. Mashallah, he or she, Fatima always tried to call. I appreciate that. I was going through some things and I really didn't want to talk to anybody. But I appreciate Fatima calling. So years down the line, I've seen this numerous times. Years down the line, they'll say, I appreciate you calling me. I saw your missed calls. I appreciate that. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't picking up the phone. And the reason most of the times they don't pick up the phone is because they feel what? Who knows? Shame. They feel guilty. Because when they look at you as a Muslim, they want to be their best around you. They want to be their best. You have to understand, when they're in the masjid, they feel at their best. So when they see something or someone act in a way that is demeaning or a way that puts them down, it hurts them so bad. It hurts them. It hurts them. So when they see you, they feel that you're going to make them better. Sometimes you're the shaykh. You are the mufti. You are the mufti. Whether you like it or not. They're going to ask you questions that you're like, and sometimes it's going to be questions that you don't have time to call the shaykh, and the shaykh may have made umrah, and hey. Wallahi, there was one time, it was Abdullah, heroin addict. Abdullah was a heroin addict. And Abdullah was told that, heroin's haram. Heroin's haram, right? Drugs are haram? Yes, drugs are haram. Okay? So he was a heroin addict, but he was so touched by Islam. And the main reason he was touched was because he knew that this was possibly the only way that he could leave off his lifestyle. So Abdullah, one night was with a brother in the car. And he was craving for that drink. He was craving for the drink. So when he told the brother, he said, look, check this out. I have a fork, man. If you don't take me right now to go and get what I need to get, I will take this fork. And I'm not going to rob you, but I'm going to get out of this car and rob somebody. Mind you, he's just, he's moving. It's just not a good situation. Sometimes you have to make a call. You have to make a judgment. You have to weigh between the two. We're going to talk about that, inshallah. So heavy on the process. So here, are there speakers connected here? You have to ask me. If not, no problem. So we talk about coaching. How many of you are familiar with Hakeem Olajuwon? Okay, so all of you are in your 30s or... Now, Hakeem Olajuwon, mashallah, he's a Hall of Famer, played for the Rockets, has the best signature move in all of basketball history, mashallah, the dream shake. And he's Muslim. And he's a devout Muslim. I know him personally in Houston. I know that if I mention some of the things that he did for the community, he would prefer not, so I'm not going to do it. But this is one video that he has. Who's that? Where are the young kids at? There's no young boys here? Okay, see? LeBron James. That's LeBron James. That's Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, this was probably maybe 2 years ago. He's teaching LeBron James how to play some signature moves. Why did LeBron James go to Hakeem? Because he knows Hakeem is the man. He's not the man, M-A-N. He is the M-A-Y-A-N. He is the man. Okay? MashaAllah. So LeBron James came to train. And LeBron James is undisputedly the best NBA player now to ever play the game. To ever play the game of basketball. This time, there was a dispute whether he was the best or not. It was most likely that he was the best. But now, y'all, this is Ohio. This is a place for Cleveland. No, So definitely, this is LeBron James training with Hakeem, learning from Hakeem Olajuwon. Learning from Hakeem Olajuwon. But Hakeem Olajuwon, and by the way, you won't find any other videos till now that I know of. You'll find a professional basketball player going to a professional basketball player's ranch to learn how to play basketball. You realize the magnitude of this? LeBron is not the first one that came to learn from Hakeem. You know who came before LeBron? The one that was disputedly the best basketball player before LeBron. Who was it? No, not MJ. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, I remember my friend called me. He's in this video. Because Hakeem Olajuwon has a clothing line. And one of my good friends, he's like standing right here. He's the VP for the clothing line. So he called me, he's like, man, Kobe's. I said, Kobe's down at Yusuf for what? He said, he's training with Hakeem. I couldn't tell anybody at that time. It was like very confidential video. But then I saw it and I was like, wow. So Kobe came to train with Hakeem. LeBron came to train with, then it was what's the one that plays in Atlanta now? Real big shoulders. He used to play for Houston. Who? Howard. Howard came and trained with Hakeem. Stoudemire came and trained with Hakeem. He had LeBron and there was somebody else. I can't remember. All of these professional players came to train with Hakeem Olajuwon. Is he a mentor or a coach here? He's a what? How is he a mentor, sister? Okay, he's been there and he's done that, right? Right? And he's not going to be with Kobe every day. That's what his coach is for. Or with LeBron every day. So it's more like a mentor here. More like a mentor. So, mashallah, definitely when it comes to being a mentor, it has its place because that information that the mentor will give most likely is going to be that priceless information that you can take with you for a long while. And after this, subhanAllah, I think this was after the championship they lost. Then it was the final championship that they won. And you can see, subhanAllah, I remember I watched it. He was doing the dream shake like it was nobody's business, man. He was doing it. Y'all familiar with the dream shake? There's a movie that's called The Dream Shake. I'm not going to do it, but it's called The Dream Shake. It's not a dance. I just thought about what I was saying. It's not a dance. Okay? It's a move. Okay? It's a basketball move where you fake it. I don't think he shows it on here. He probably does show it on here. But it's a move where you fake them out and it's a post-up move. And he's well known for it. Sports Illustrated has termed it as the best signature move in the history of basketball. Then after that was the skyhook by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Make this smaller. All right. You bring out the best in me. This is a small subtitle under the coach versus mentor. We're talking about you bringing out the best in me. What do you think this title means? You bring out the best in me. What's up, Ian?
When someone gets your inside you, inspire you, motivate you, necessary to learn how to.
Right, inspiring you to move you to the next level. So who inspiring who? The coach inspiring the convert. Okay, so we say the coach inspiring the convert. So this relationship of you being a coach is realizing, firstly, that you should listen. Ways of helping the convert is just to listen. Sister, what's your name, sister? Jessica, can you read this for us, please?
The word listen contains the same words as the word silent.
The word listen contains the same words as the word silent. So when you're out with them, open-ended questions. Let them talk. And you realize it will really help. We have something called Coffee and Converts. It's one of our programs that we've had. We've had for about almost 2 years. It's just over coffee, sitting with open-ended questions. And every event that we have is based on the season. So if it's Christmas, we're going to talk about holidays with the family, right? What does that mean? How has it changed your life, right? If it's Valentine's, we talk about marriage. We talk about loving Allah, loving His messenger, right? But it's open-ended questions. And then they talk, and subhanAllah, in Houston, mashallah, it's a family that is formed, and it's beautiful. And the sister that's heading in, mashallah, she's very passionate about that work. So in understanding that you as a coach bring the best out of people, it will increase your iman. Because you will see someone that's always asking you questions, and these questions are detrimental to their development, because you know, as I mentioned before, you are considered the mufti to them. So whatever you say, that's what's going to go. Knowing when to say what? I don't know. Knowing when to say I don't know. If there is, like I mentioned, this brother Abdullah that was an addict, or there is someone that is, wanting to get married, there has to be some type of a network with the community. So it's very important to get to know your local resources. As a Muslim community, we may not provide all the resources. A counselor, drug addiction, right? Someone that deals with someone that has addiction. Is there a AAA or Alcoholics Anonymous that you're aware of in your community, to where they know that when you reach out to them, it's going to be someone that's in need, right? Is there someone that has become Muslim? And what if this guy in Cleveland, Ohio was someone that converted to Islam? We don't know. If he was someone that converted and he couldn't talk to anybody. When I go to the masjid, they just look at me crazy. I can't go home because my mom doesn't take me seriously. I call my friends and they're making fun of me, right? If you as a convert coach see that, you know that you may not have the knowledge of how to deal with him or her. You need to know to have some resources to reach out to deal with. If there's a psychologist in the community, if there's a psychiatrist in the community, right? Therapist, right? Someone that can deal with that and help. Even be resourceful. You yourself be resourceful. Use the resources within your community. That's another program that we have within this fishing pole program. Is we had it once. It's basically something like this where converts come and sit, and then we'll have a doctor in the community, an engineer in the community, an entrepreneur, a carpenter, right? A teacher. And they come and talk to them and tell them what it took for them to get to that career. And they also allow them 2 weeks to shadow them at work, especially entrepreneurs, to shadow them in their place of employment. Right? This is something that, as an individual, you're resourceful, you're helping, and again, the non-Muslim relatives that see that will be affected. Also, like mentioning mental health clinics, crisis counselors, shelters. In Houston, there's a shelter, subhanAllah, it's called An-Nisa. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of it. An-Nisa. It's headed by a sister named Bibi Khan. She had to fight a lot of community members throughout her history. But, subhanAllah, there was approximately about 4 times that I needed for a convert sister to go to An-Nisa. She had nowhere to, these converts had nowhere to go. One was 19 years old. And when I talked to her, she was with a friend, living with a friend that was from another country, and he was just here to study. Okay? And they were doing things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was definitely not pleased with. Right? And she was trying to do the right thing. And he called her to Islam, mashallah. But she realized after she became Muslim, she wasn't supposed to do those things. This was the reason she was around him. But she's realizing the very nature of our relationship is wrong. And I have to go. I gotta go. So she ended up going to this shelter. There was, how many times do we have Muslims that want these packages? They call from shelters. Right? They left their city. Only one person from their existing city knows what they are, and all they have is Islam. Wallahi, just like the Muhajirun. All they have is Islam. That's it. Literally. So if they come to the masjid, like figuratively making hijrah to your masjid, and then they're turned away. If there's no shelter, Allah musta'an. Informality matters. What do I mean by informality matters? Who has an idea what I mean by that? Informality matters. Come on. Well, it could be, hello, sir, how was your day? It's not like, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, Informality matters is meaning that a lot of times we think the solution for the new Muslim is they have to have classes in the masjid. That's it. That's all they need in class. No, there has to be a social structure for them. There has to be both. Because on the flip side, people will say, no, all they need is social. No, they need social. They need to be educated. How many times have I seen in social circles, the social circle has been going on for 4 or 5 years, but they don't know how to pray. They don't know how to recite Quran. They don't know how to recite Fatiha. Right? They don't know what Hajj is. No? They didn't know that they couldn't go out on dates. They had no idea about this stuff. But they've been Muslim 4 or 5 years with this social circle, which is great. And we acknowledge we're Muslims, but there's no education element there. Right? So informality is very, very important. That there has to be an element within the new Muslim, the re-new Muslim, and the youth's experience. Also, be realistic. What do I mean by be realistic? Give me some examples. What do y'all mean by be realistic? When I say be realistic, what do y'all think that means? Yes.
Don't set goals that you can't achieve.
Sorry?
Don't set goals you can't achieve.
Don't set goals you can't achieve. Okay. MashaAllah. Good. Good. Yes. You have to expect for there to be bumps in the road. Okay? Give me an example. Someone from the sister side, give me an example of a bump in the road from a convert that a coach, being realistic, is dealing with it in a productive way. Hijab. Okay, what do you mean? Okay. Okay. Okay, so how is you as a coach being realistic? If she comes up to you and she says, what's your name? Umema. I felt that I could talk to you because mashallah, or not too much. You were very nice to me, and somebody just told me in the mosque that I can't pray unless I put what you're wearing. That I have to wear that even outside the prayer? What do you say?
I would say you would wear during Salah.
What's Salah? A lot of times, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, what prayer is.
Okay.
When you are ready to wear it outside of the mosque.
So I have to wear it in the prayer, in the mosque? Like I have to? Do I have to wear it when I'm praying? Yes? Okay, so you tell her she has to when she's praying, but outside she doesn't have to. Until she's ready. Yeah. That's being realistic. Okay? Yes?
I've had some experiences with matters. Some examples that come to my mind is, say, people who have jobs which have haram elements. One example I think of is the sister who was working at Wendy's.
Where?
Wendy's.
Okay.
And obviously there's some porky items in the menu. Well, they want to quit their job, but that's your only job.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell a single mother, they quit the only job you get, even though it's a low-paying job as it is, and send her on the streets.
Exactly. And that was the example I was going to allude to. If you see someone that has a job, and the job is something that contains elements that is impermissible, or the job in and of itself is impermissible, okay, you have to be gradual with them. Be gradual with them. And that's what I meant by be a resource. Provide for them a solution. The Prophet ﷺ, when he prohibited someone from something, he always gave them a solution. Right? Like one of the companions, you say, Wal Kaaba. And I swear by the Kaaba. The Prophet ﷺ said, La tikul wa Kaaba kul wa rabbil Kaaba. Right? He would always give a solution for them. So if you're prohibiting them from something and they're in a delicate situation, provide a solution or be quiet. Provide a solution or be quiet. You will not be held accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you don't say something right then and there because you're looking at the long run, looking for the long run. Again, another benefit from Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when the Prophet made the pact with the Meccans. The pact was something, apparently it troubled his companions. It troubled them. I mean, one of the clauses of the pact was, look, if anybody that embraces Islam comes from Mecca and wants to come to you, O Muhammad, you have to send them back to us. Basically, send them back to us so they can be persecuted. I mean, that was difficult for Umar bin Khattab, the companions. It was difficult for them to hear that. But he was long-sighted. The Prophet was looking in the long run. To where, subhanAllah, after that treaty, more people embraced Islam in those couple of years than the whole, 13, 12, 15 years. More people embraced Islam. He was far-sighted, so again, be realistic. And yes, you as a convert coach, people are going to look at you strange. They're going to say, she's not wearing hijab. How are you going to let her do it? Right? You're going to be doing this to you? Say, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll deal with the situation. You will have to be somewhat of a whistleblower. Everyone know what a whistleblower is? A whistleblower? You may have to be someone that seems strange, seems outlandish. People may be thinking what you're doing is haram. Nah? But you have evidence from the Quran and Sunnah. You have maybe scholars that you've spoken to back you up on that. But be realistic. This is so crucial. I remember one time, subhanAllah, we had a session for new Muslims. And the Houston Chronicle, we wanted to have an Eid celebration for converts. And the Houston Chronicle wanted to come. It's one newspaper in Houston. So there was a lady, she was, Jill. She came and she had shorts on and, she was regular, mashallah. So she came to the masjid and it was Maghrib time. So, you have to go into the brother's side. So she had her camera and stuff. So I said, here we go. Bismillah, to put a Bismillah on it, right? So, walk in. Brothers were looking at her crazy. I had to make it a point to make her feel, she felt very uncomfortable. You could see on her, she felt very uncomfortable. And, a lot of times they'll say, I just don't want to disrespect anybody, right? So I said, no. Don't worry. If anybody's looking at you strange, don't worry about them. I'm here. Come on. Let's go. I'm right here. Don't worry about it. Yes, you're allowed in the men's side. It's okay. We're going upstairs. This is how I had to talk to her and make sure that the brothers heard me. I had to make sure. Because I didn't want her to make her feel that she was doing anything wrong. And as a matter of fact, I told the brother, I said, at the end of the salah, I mentioned it at the end of the salah. So this is a benefit for the community. Do you realize that? I said, what if people come in, this is post 9/11. What if somebody comes in as a newscaster, a journalist, that is not looking out for your best interests, and they say, you know what? These people that are going overseas, a lot of them have converted to Islam. What is your community doing to educate them about this stuff? What programs do you have that's consistent to educate them about this stuff? Right? What are you going to say as a community? What are you going to say? And this is where this was mentioned to them. It kind of opened some eyes and people started to think. Right? Because again, as I mentioned before, when we're complacent, anything that's a change is a threat to complacency. Does everyone understand that? Change is a threat to complacency. That's why the Arabs, during the time of the Prophet, they hated him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he brought change to the most important thing in life. And their excuse was, this is what we found our forefathers doing. A complacent action. An action of complacency. We don't want to change. We don't want anything different. Right? So when introducing that to them, you had to tell them that, subhanAllah, that this is beneficial for the ummah. We're living in America. People are becoming Muslim. You have to recognize someone may be knocking your door wanting to know about Islam. Always be ready for that change. Right? Never get too comfortable. Also, for instance, we have something called Amana in Houston. It's a refugee service. I don't know if you'll have any refugee services here. Especially with the youth. If you get the youth involved in this, and one thing that they had for the AIDS is called Rock the Block. It used to be called Meet and Greet or something like that. Meat for meat. So what they would do is they would, for Hajj, they would slaughter a lot of meat. And mashallah, a lot of the doctors, lawyers, and then we bring converts there. We go and distribute it in the areas of where the refugees were. And this was the job of Amana. They would distribute furniture, clothes, food. Amana services. Brother named Ghulamia, who was a young high school kid, now mashallah, the non-profit organization, $1 million non-profit organization. MashaAllah. So, this is one of the things that they do. If a young child or a convert gets involved in that, you got to understand there's different avenues where people can see their talents. And if you allow them to use their talents to benefit the ummah, you've just empowered them. When they feel empowered, they feel that they're giving something back. They feel that they're needed. What will that do to them and their environment in the masjid? When they walk in and say, "Oh, Muhammad, we need your help with this." Yeah, where were you? Imagine if someone comes in the masjid and somebody says, "Where were you?" What kind of feeling does that leave? I'm wanted, I'm needed. Because in my house, I'm not. I'm looked at crazy. I'm the black sheep of the family. My mother doesn't want to go. How many sisters I know, their mothers didn't want to go out with me wearing that thing? But when they come to the masjid, where were you? How have you been? What's your name? Where are you from? I've never seen you before. No? Informality matters. So we're talking about roots or fruits, and this is very important. When we talk about what do we handle first? The roots or the fruits? What do we mean by roots or fruits? No? What's the fruits, for instance? Sorry? The basics? Is the fruits the basics?
The outcomes.
يعني أترجم أصول والثمار.
And the roots are the basics.
The roots are the basics, right? And what's the fruits, for instance?
Outcome or results.
Results. Okay. Somewhat. Give me an example for each one. Someone give me an example. Yes?
Iman is roots, like what they have in their hearts. How much they know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay.
That's roots.
Okay.
Hijab, salah, all these things, that they're resistant of salah. That's roots.
Okay. Yes?
Tarbiyah.
Tarbiyah. Okay, for them to be raised appropriately. To learn in a gradual fashion. Okay. Pretty close. Okay. So that's what is important for us to understand, that we come as Medanites with a Meccan approach. Does everyone understand Medanites? What was established in Medina? What's that? The ibadah, هذا كان في حتى في مكة العبادات المبنية على التوحيد. Islamic empire, the community. Okay, so some would argue 4, but definitely 3 of the pillars of Islam were established in Medina, not in Mecca. I mentioned that before. So the roots is exactly what you said, sister, the Iman, the Aqidah. For them to know who Allah is, who He is not. Hijab would be considered a fruit. It's a fruit. No? It's a fruit. It's not something that they have to do or even learn to a certain degree as soon as they leave the masjid. Now, this is very important, that we act as Medanites because we are seasoned Muslims, let's say. So when dealing with new Muslims, we don't talk about those issues that, I don't want to say secondary or tertiary, but there are issues that are more important to deal with and tackle and talk about before those issues. What happens when we deal with converts, we talk about both of them. We mix it. Yani cocktail. Yani mashuba. Yani we talk about this issue and that. Prime example. There was a brother, he was a new Muslim. Scenario. Let me paint a scenario. I don't have enough time because I like to do scenarios. Bring them up and do scenarios. Usually I do it. Let's see. Sheikh. I'm a convert, okay? You have your phone with you? Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. Okay. Sorry, what? What's your name? Muhammad? Is this Muhammad?
Yes.
Salam alaikum. Yeah. Listen, Muhammad, I'm at work and I can't leave. I just got this job. And my girlfriend, she's got to go to work. And she, you're my neighbor and you can really help me out in my slums. Is it possible? Can you take her to work for me? So I appreciate it. I appreciate it. No one is there for me. You're the only one that's been there for me. And I really appreciate it. Thanks. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Right? What did Muhammad do just now?
I think his wife.
Muhammad just did something haram. Right? Those are situations to where you have to look at the roots before the fruits. Yes, Muhammad in the beginning is like, whoa, I had the cave. Right? But he's looking at the benefit for this brother. If he was to say no, 51 to 100%, it would hurt him. It would be detrimental to his development. And his niyyah is that I want to help this brother. In essence, yes, that's something that is not allowed. But he's looking at the maslahah, the benefit outweighing the harm. Yeah? So his intention is very, very important. Even though that action in of itself, in general, is something that is not recommended. But he's looking at the benefit versus the harm. So a Medinite with a Meccan approach, and that's definitely a Meccan approach. And then talking about the process of progression. Can't we all get along? And then we will end, inshallah, because the time is Asr is coming in, and we're supposed to go till 6. Okay. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in here, in the process of progression, so know, O Muhammad, that there is no deity except Allah, and ask for forgiveness and your sin, ask for forgiveness for your sin and for the believing men and believing women, and Allah knows your movement and your resting place. Allah is aware of everything, and that's when we're talking about the knowledge of the Creator. The process of progression was knowledge of Creator, knowledge of what? Self, and knowledge of what? Purpose. Knowledge of purpose. And really when we talk about knowledge of purpose, that's when we talk about motivation, fear, not giving up, resilience, you'll be criticized. All of these aspects when we talk about knowledge of purpose. So where all of these aspects of criticizing, fear, you go over the chapter of Al-Masad and what happened with the Prophet ﷺ and how they used to call him names. And when he would say, for instance, إِنَّهُمْ يَسُبُّونَ وَيَهْجُونَ مُذَمَّمًا وَأَنَا مُحَمَّدٌ أَنَا لَسْتُ بِمُذَمَّمٍ. They used to say, Ya Muzammam, oh despised one, and say it in the, we hate the despised one. Muzammamun abayna wa dinuhu qalayna wa amruhu asayna. Right? They would go around saying, the despised one, we reject. And this situation, we totally, is yani qalayna, yani istaqala. We're tired of. Wa dinuhu abay, wa dinuhu asayna. And his religion, we totally just disobey. And they were cursing him one time. The Prophet, full of pride of who he was, integrity, had no fear, courage. He said, they're talking about some guy named Muhammad. I'm Muhammad. I don't know what they're talking about. No? So this is exactly when you have the knowledge of Allah, the knowledge of yourself, the knowledge of your purpose. When you're faced with things like this, when the new Muslim goes to his family reunion and they're looking at him or her strange because the way that they look, or they got to go and pray when everybody's drinking and having fun and talking about the old times, right? They may feel bad. The doer versus the doctrine. This is very important. We're talking about the doer versus the doctrine. Very important rules in this roots and fruits, right? Allah is perfect. We're not. Why is this important for every Muslim to know, but especially converts to know? Why is this important? Jessica, right? Yep. If they see someone that's Muslim like a boyfriend, right? And he is a Sahabi to the Prophet in the beginning. Right? He's the Mufti. There's a situation, there was a girl, she became Muslim. MashaAllah, she was hanging around her sisters. All of a sudden, she wasn't around. Come to find out that it was a Muslim guy, she was his girlfriend. And his mom wanted him to finally get married. So he had to get married to someone in his culture. Right? So with that, he had to let her go. She was devastated. I don't even know where she is till this day. I have no idea where she is. And when I called the brother, till this day doesn't answer my calls. Because he knows why I'm calling him. He knows exactly why I'm calling him. So the doer versus the doctrine, to separate between the two. Importance of consistent classes. So you have to have something consistent to where the new Muslim knows there's a place where I can be consistently educated. They may not come, they come the first time, they may not come for 6 weeks, but at least they know when they want to get right, when they want to hear something that's uplifting, when they want an event that will possibly be a catalyst for a process, they'll come here. Okay? They'll come here. Earth to the convert. When we talk about earth to the convert, it's very important in a nutshell that we bring them to reality. We let them know that nobody's perfect, that I'm going to make mistakes. I may give you a wrong answer. I may not know. I may take you to someone and he gives you an answer and does something wrong. I remember, subhanAllah, when I was a new Muslim, there was a friend of mine, actually the one that called me to Islam. It's going to be kind of soap opera right now. Bear with me. The one that called me to Islam, his ex-wife, was in the masjid one day. I was praying Asr. Because, I used to pray my sunnahs of Asr, after Asr. Right? No sunnahs after Asr. But I did. I did in this masjid, and no one would tell me. I would always wonder why. I'm praying my 4 rakats, and everyone's gone. Everyone is gone. Because I'm like, Maghrib, everyone's praying. I'm like, mashallah, I'm going to pray my 4 Asr. I got off work. Love coming here, mashallah. This is the masjid that the Imam told me about Islam. No one would tell me. So I found that out much later after this event. So one day, she walks in, she's like, Assalamu alaikum. She's like, Walaikum salam. So-and-so's wife. I didn't say it, but I was happy to see her because her husband called me to Islam. Little did I know that he wasn't her husband anymore because somebody else walked in and I knew him from back in the day. Okay? And he walked in the masjid, and let's just say this. He was not in, let's say, a good state. Okay? He was high. He was very high. Very, very high. He was like parachute high. Okay? I knew that. The Imam didn't. And they wanted to come to get married. And I didn't know. I didn't know the marriage process. I didn't know marriage process. I didn't know how to get married. Nothing. So, and I'm trusting the sister and the Imam. So the Imam is coming to me. He's like, brother, this man wants to get married to the sister on the other side. And it's like, awkward moment. I didn't know what to do. Okay, let me be a witness. I can't hold Muslims back from getting married, so brother's high, he'll eventually come off of it and come to his senses, I guess. So I witnessed the marriage. And the brother was, he was asked, the way he was answering, I'm thinking the sheikh thought he was like tired. Because, oh, man. If that would have just been put on a Facebook video, every time I think about it, I ask Allah for forgiveness. Because he was clearly, the Imam had no idea whatsoever. And this Imam, he was from Libya. Okay? So he was he didn't play at all. With any, he knows Haram, he was very, very stern, and his hukkahs were fire. So he definitely didn't know. So the marriage ended, they left, and I'm still thinking to myself, was this wrong? Later, as I learned, I realized what I did was totally wrong. And that marriage ended up weeks later. The guy got caught and was in jail. But, huh? The only high marriage, yes. The only Mary Jane marriage. Yeah. Okay. So, alhamdulillah, I want to end with this, inshallah. There's a lot of content here, but due to time constraints, I want y'all to know some of the products that we have. These packages here are packages that if you go on the website, you can request these packages. Anybody that's a new Muslim, or if you know a new Muslim, you can request these packages, and they'll be mailed to you, inshallah. We're kind of backed up on mail. We have a lot of requests, but they will eventually be mailed to you, inshallah ta'ala. There's one for sisters and one for brothers. The contents of the package I'll break down to you in 1 minute, inshallah ta'ala, just for you to get an idea. We have something called New Knowledge. So it's a curriculum. So it starts off as a pamphlet. There's one called Pillars of Prayer. This is a pamphlet. It's pretty big. It's about an 11 by 14, and you can take it out and learn how to pray. So if someone becomes Muslim, hijab for sisters, if someone becomes Muslim, they have this pamphlet here. So if they become Muslim in Maghrib, by Isha, they can use this pamphlet and learn how to pray. They can just put it on the ground and learn how to pray. So it has pictures, and it's just transliteration, no Arabic, just transliteration of Surah Al-Fatiha, the bare essentials. The bare essentials. And on the back side is the elements of wudu, of purification, and what nullifies it. Bare essentials. Also, this is what would be considered level 1. We give seminars in this. So if we give a seminar in this, if you want to become a convert coach, you want to give these seminars, ahlan wa sahlan, welcome. Just get certified, and you can take and teach this material to where you can teach this seminar for about maybe 2 to 3 hours, or however you see fit. Everyone will just have this. The convert will just have this, and you will come and teach them this seminar. The second form of material that we have here is called the Keys of Guidance. This will be level 2. This is a book that I wrote. It's a book that goes over the conditions of La ilaha illallah and basics of purification and prayer, and then also an introduction to Quran and Hadith. No more than 50 pages. So each page is a condition of La ilaha illallah. And it's a small book, something that is easy to go through. This is a seminar that's on the actual website. If you become a convert coach, you're able to go through the seminar and get certified in that and further teach it. Level 3 is something that's called the Pillars to Jannah. That's a longer, more extensive version of the 5 pillars of Islam, but through the lens of a convert. So when you're teaching that, there's a coaches edition that you will have, and then there will be a students edition. So we have the convert coaches for the coaches, like a teacher's edition. So what it has is basically you have the book that the students will get, but there are small points, and each point is dealing with teaching techniques. What are some issues that you want to talk about, and what are some proofs in the Quran and the Sunnah for supporting some of your points, and the manual that the students will have. Upon completing these, you don't have to take all of this, but there's a quiz that if someone wants to become a convert coach, they would take the quiz. If they pass the quiz, then they can form what is called a new you crew. So, for instance, if you wanted to form a new you crew here, it would just require a brother or a sister or both, and you can become a convert coach to start a new you crew, which is basically a chapter. You will be provided these products. You'll be provided a certain amount of packages. And even if you want to speak with me on certain things to teach, I can teach a first seminar for you and give you some techniques on how to teach converts. That's just the curriculum, the new you knowledge curriculum. But as I mentioned before, we have something called Convert Coffee and Converse. That's once a month, and it's just over any issue that open-ended questions come about. Usually 3 open-ended questions, and you let them talk. I don't go to them because Fatima and she told me when they see you as the sheikh come there, they want you to talk and give. So I don't go. I want to make sure that they just talk and they vibe. And mashallah, people have now living in Dallas. We did it once. Somebody converted to Islam, and we have a WhatsApp group, and mashallah, it's growing. But that is something that is very, very effective. We also had something called it was potlucks. We had bi-monthly potlucks, and the goal of the potluck was to bring new Muslims or non-Muslims. It is not for seasoned Muslims just to come and hang out. It's very important because this is a non-profit organization. funds that go to this organization have to go towards the project. This event is something that was very good. One time there was a sister. She came with her friend. And I didn't know, I thought they were both non-Muslim. But one of them was Muslim, mashallah. So one of them comes to me and she says, my friend wants to become Muslim. Right? I said, okay, mashallah. Good. Bring her here. So she runs, she's so happy. Then another sister comes, she says, look, never mind. Okay. So then her friend comes. She says, yeah, I told her about Islam. And then the one that came to me and said, nah, never mind. I said, you give him the shahada. I said, you need to start practicing. No, don't just come to me. I mean, you know the basic good shahada. She gave her the shahada. And when the girl embraced Islam, the way that they hugged each other, I knew that it was a little more than that. Say one getting my Jewish? 2 women. Does that mean she couldn't embrace Islam? No. She had every right to become a Muslim. But it was very good for the community to see that. The sister wanted to come and tell me, she's this. But she was like, never mind. So after that, I said, oh, is that what you wanted to tell me? She was like, yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you. I said, no problem. She has every right to be a Muslim. She has every right to be a Muslim. And this is what I'm talking about. If someone comes to the masjid and they're like that, do we turn them away? If we're complacent in our environment and the people we're around and we're used to seeing them as someone's new, and that new person looks shadh, shwaya, nah? What do we do? Really, what do we do? This is the product of our environment. This is our society. If they come and they want huda and guidance and they're turned away by the way that we look, act, or don't even talk to them, they're gone. So again, brothers and sisters, those are the events that we have, and we plan to have 2 other projects. But the goal of this is to serve. What we want to do is we want to see these in kiosks and masjids all around the world in different languages. And we want to see branches and chapters of people that want to just help this demographic and this cause to teach the Muslims to where they'll eventually be in masjids and just to grow in their respective societies. And in the end of the day, it'll give an outlook of Islam that, subhanAllah, organically will happen, voluntarily will happen by people that have learned from people like yourselves. So Jazakallah khair for coming. We shortened it to mashallah, there's a lot more content, but Jazakallah khair for coming and having me, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you of those that are successful in this life and in the next. And if you have any questions, mashallah, I think there's an email list. If you want to know some of the events or if you're interested in joining this cause, let me know, inshallah ta'ala. You can leave your email, your name, number, and email, inshallah. If there's any questions, you can ask now, or I think Salat al-Asr is coming in. Pray Asr, inshallah. I'll be here. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.